Great. So joining me today is BSB Superstock rider Chrissy Rouse. So Chrissy, first and foremost, how are you keeping in the current times?
Yeah, good. I'm pleased to be back racing, that's for sure. Because having those months of just sat around the house, not really allowed to do much at all, wasn't good. So yeah, really pleased that the Superbike Championship managed to get a condensed championship out, and it's a little bit full on at the moment because soon as the green light was like the go ahead for the racing was on, it was a case of testing, and then I think this weekend just gone was the first weekend in. Oh, sorry, this weekend now is the first weekend in about 7 weeks that I haven't been either at a racetrack or doing something with my bike. So yeah, it's been like absolutely flat out over the last, say 2 months. But before then, yeah, keeping well, just just doing whatever you could do, and the podcasts sort of kept us busy each week, gave us something to sort of look forward to and work on. So that's been going really well, and yeah, just really enjoying the racing now.
And how did kind of the COVID situation affect your racing then when you actually were able to race? Because you were signed with Kawasaki, were you? And then there was a change. You're on a BMW now. So how did it kind of affect your season?
Yeah, that's right. The whole COVID thing, unfortunately, really impacted the sponsorship for the team that I was due to race for. So it was with MSS Kawasaki, and yeah, due to the whole coronavirus scenario, the team weren't able to run this year. So it was about, I think it must have been about a month or 6 weeks before the first round. I got a phone call to say like basically they were pulling out for the 2020 season and sort of getting ready for the following year. But then I was kind of released from the contract, if you like, and I was allowed to basically do whatever I wanted. But the problem was at that point, pretty much all the teams had got the riders sorted, and obviously with the whole coronavirus thing as well, sponsorships really difficult to come by at the moment because obviously companies are, like making redundancies and stuff. So it's really difficult to then go and ask, for to go and race motorbikes.
Yeah.
So it was a really tough situation to be in. But I've got a really good friend, Gabriel, who stepped in and from Crow Performance, and although there were the lads there were pretty pushed as it was. They really sort of pulled it out of the bag last minute and got us a bike prepared, and with the help from basically all my personal sponsors and like lots of people chipping in, a lot of people that listen to the podcast and just people who have got on social media and whatever. And yeah, it was a little bit of a last minute scramble to get everything sorted, but it was a case of I could either sit back and watch the remainder of the season from my sofa, or take a bit of a risk and have a go. And yeah, I'm so pleased that I was, first of all, that I made that decision, but then that I've had the support that I have from so many people. And obviously we're 2 rounds in, and it's weird to be 2 rounds in and to be like a third of the way through the season already. But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying the racing. It's a bit odd with there's no spectators there at the moment, so
What's the actual atmosphere?
yeah, there's a very different sort of feeling in the paddock, and it's a lot quieter. I would say, the fans make a big difference at BSB to the atmosphere and the general, buzz around the paddock and stuff. But there's a few small advantages, I suppose. There's not as big queue at the toilets, and you don't get stuck in traffic on the way out. That's for sure. But yeah, it's the main thing is just to get back racing. It would have been brilliant to have spectators there as well, but given the current climate, and it's weird as well with my area where I live in the northeast isn't in lockdown, but there's like spots in the country which are locked down, and when you're traveling around, it's really weird because obviously you're stopping at like service stations and stuff, and there's quite a lot of places in the west of the country, so like around Manchester, Bradford, that area. And like they've got rules where they're not allowed to mix with other families and all this. Where
Here we're a bit like that here.
oh really? Oh well,
Yeah,
it's
like you can't go in your car with more than family or something. and you can't have people around. You can only have 2 households around your house and a maximum of 10 people
So
inside, no, outside, and 6 inside, I think.
do you still have the help out to eat out thing? So is everyone going for food?
Up the north, that's only up the north. It's not down the Republic.
Oh, really? Oh, see, it's weird that it feel like there's rules like that, but you know, you go out, like me and the lads have been going out on a Monday night for half price food, and everywhere's packed, and it's
I
to
know.
me
Because
it's great to be, you know, see everyone out and like getting businesses going, and it just back to what feels normal.
Because I actually went away on holidays and I went up north because of that help out or eat out help out thing. But just kind of went to do a bit of sightseeing around Ireland or whatever. And we actually went to a nice hotel called the Ballymac. So if anyone from the Ballymac is watching, lovely hotel. It's on the Ulstergram pre-course just outside Levenstown there. But yeah, like it was packed, like everywhere in Belfast in the evening for lunch. Like you were going out for your lunch, and for what you were getting, you were paying €3 or well £3. What's that, like 4.20 in euros for your lunch. And you know, normally it'd be what? Do you know what I mean? Like everything.
Yeah.
It was
No, it's the same over years, and like I've been stopping it. Sometimes I forget about it, and you go in and like even places like McDonald's, and you stop at service stations, and you're getting like a full meal, and it comes to like a couple of quid. But yeah, happy days. I've definitely made taken full advantage of the situation there.
Oh, for sure. Right. On a less trivial note, we'll just wind it back a little bit. So, how did you actually first like come to get involved in racing? Was it in your family, or was it just something that you kind of like took up yourself?
Yeah, so the first motorbike I got was when I was 7 years old, and just got it for Christmas. Nobody in my family has raced motorbikes, but my dad was always interested in motorbikes, like on the road and stuff. So that was where the initial sort of interest in bikes altogether came in. And even back then, BSB used to be actually on the BBC. So when you only had like say 4 channels on a Sunday afternoon, you could sit and watch the Superbike. So even from a young age, I was I sort of knew the tracks and I was interested. But yeah, I initially started on the dirt and just sort of riding around spare land. That then developed into racing motocross, and my bike was stolen when I was I think I was 11 years old. My bike was stolen, and that kind of left a bit of a sour taste because we sort of felt like we'd been followed home from a motocross event, and it meant that if we'd got another motocross bike, we would kind of all be really nervous, and you'd be a bit paranoid. So we kind of just started afresh with road racing, and back then it was Metro Kit 70s. I don't know if that's notifications coming through for me or you. I'm not sure, but I can hear like a ding. Yeah, so I started a series called Metro Kit racing, which were like mini Grand Prix bikes, but you race them on go-kart tracks. So they're kind of bigger than a mini moto, but not as big as like a 125. So it was a Metro Kit 70, and it was funny back then. The sort of main contenders for that championship back in 2008 were Bradley Ray and Kyle Ryde. And it's kind of funny to see them two sort of battling it out in superbikes now, because it was exactly the same back then, years ago. But yeah, and then once the end of that season came around, it's almost like a traveling circus, and you sort of meet the same people every weekend, and then you get to the end of the year, and back then everyone was moving up to a championship called the Aprilia Super Teens, and so it was kind of like, well, that's what we'll have to do. So my dad bought 2 Aprilia Super Teen bikes. They were like, I think you could pick them up for about £2,000 each back then. And we went to Mallory Park. I did my like ACU license and everything. And back then there was a full grid of Super Teen bikes. So there was like 44 riders, packed grid, and all the bikes looked exactly the same. Everyone wore nitro full leathers and suits, and it was unbelievable. I think that was probably my favourite year road racing. The first round at Mallory Park, I qualified like virtually last, and it was funny because I was battling all weekend. Me and Taryn McKenzie were battling for like 40th place or something, and I actually had Taz on my podcast a while ago, and we're having a laugh about it. And then throughout that year, me and Dad, just whatever meeting was on, wherever it was in the country, every weekend we were just like, my dad works away in London, and it was just a case of seeing what was on at the weekend, and then he would come back on a Friday. We would pack the motorhome and just go drive. And obviously, all the tracks were new. We were meeting like loads of good people all the time, and it was just amazing. We did no prep in between the meetings whatsoever. So if I ever crashed the bikes,
Wow.
which I did quite a bit, we used to just put them back. Dad would go to work, I would go to school, and then we'll pack the van, get down to the track, and then get the bike out and try and get it past scrutiny. And yeah, and by the end of that year, I was kind of I went from right at the back, and I went to like sort of knocking on the door at the front. And there was some great riders that year, Lee Jackson, who's in Superbikes now, and Andy Reid, Wayne Ryan. There was a guy from Australia called Matt Davies who came over, just to name a few. And then yeah, just progressed. I did another year of Super Teens, which actually won the championship the year, which was it was a huge achievement for us back then. And then went up to GP 125s at BSB. I then won a competition in the motorcycle news it was called the Triumph. The competition was run by Triumph UK, but it was called the Triumph Young Gun scheme. And you basically they did like fitness tests, PR tests, whatever. Anyone could apply, and they sort of whittled us down, and then to a top 10, and then eventually to a top 3. And then I was chosen it was like a sponsored ride for the following year. So that was my first year on a bigger bike. And then I did the Triumph Triple Challenge, finished 4th in the first year, and then won it in the next year. I'm just talking through right the way through my career, yeah. And then the following year, I was actually doing my GCSEs. So I took a little bit of a break from my racing and concentrated on doing my exams. And then the second half of the season, I actually went out I did a few rounds in the European Superstock Championship, which was a really great experience. And then in fact, no, sorry, that was when I was doing my A levels. And then I stayed out there and I worked for Focused Events doing the like track day tuition, and sort of lived in southern Spain for like 6 months. That was a really good experience. And then back to the UK, I raced for Triumph again in the Superstock Championship for Team Haribo Star Mix, the sweet company. So every weekend we had 6,000 packets of Haribo sweets to give out to fans. And yeah, that was a good year. And then moved up to the Stock 1000 with a team called Mission Racing. I loved the 1000. As soon as I got on it, I just clicked with it straight away. And first year we had brilliant year, and got up I finished 9th in the championship. Following year I stayed with the same team and finished 4th, but it was back then it was a case of we were on a real low budget, but we're kind of challenging the likes of Danny Buchan, Richard Cooper, Michael Rutter, and we're getting podiums like quite often. It was just a great year. The following year, I rode for a team called IMR at the beginning of the season, and I didn't have such a good start of the year. I crashed a lot, and that was my biggest downfall, really. And I ended up leaving the team after a few rounds, and I was offered a superbike ride for the remaining of the season with Halsall Racing on the Suzuki, and that was a great opportunity. First time riding a big bike on slick tires and like a very professional team. And then the year after, I rode back to Superstock on a Kawasaki from Morello. I finished 4th in the championship, and I took my maiden race win at the end of the season. And then this year, I was due to be staying with Kawasaki, but then obviously what happened, and Crow Performance stepped in, and I'm back on a BMW. It's the Gen 4 BMW, it's like the latest one. And yeah, so far so good.
So far so good. God, you had a breath there. I actually forget what I was going to ask you now. Yeah, actually I remember. So yeah, you were talking about there, you're predominantly kind of on super stocks now, but like just for people who I suppose like myself, I'm not going to lie and pretend I know what you're talking about, but say a super stock bike and a super bike, what kind of differences would be like between them, do you know?
Yeah, so Superstock, basically a road going bike, and the regulations are quite strict on what you can and can't change. So
Right.
it's kind of sold as is what you would buy on the road, and then you put race fairings and like an exhaust, change the fork internals, rear suspension, that type of thing. But most things have to be as they are, like originally from the manufacturer. In superbikes, the rules are opened up quite a lot, and you can change things like the swinging arm. You get like better brakes, better suspension, and yeah, you can. It's basically up to the teams what they want to, like, what line they want to go down, but it's much more open. One of the big differences is the electronics. The superbikes, basically years ago in British superbikes, the electronics started taking over the sport a little bit, and it sort of became who had the best electronics was winning. And there was a year in, I think it was 2007, when the GSC team were running. It was James Ellison and Leon Camier, and they had the biggest budget that year, and they just annihilated the whole field. And the championship was over way before the last round, and obviously the excitement just wasn't there. It wasn't like a grand final, and that's kind of why we've got the showdown now, so that it's always decided pretty much on the last day of the season. But yeah, to get back to the electronics, basically the price for the electronics was just spiraling out of control. So the series director Stuart Higgs brought a rule so all the bikes run like a Motec electronic system, which was a lot. It basically just makes it a level playing field, and where in Superstock, so for example, in Superbikes you can't have like traction control and anti-wheelie and all that type of stuff, where we can actually run all that in Superstock.
Okay. Getting my head around that slowly but surely.
In just to get as a sort of round figure, to build a new Superstock bike, you're looking at between sort of 25 to 40,000 pounds. Where
Okay.
to build a competitive superbike, I believe it would be more sort of, you could spend between like sort of 70 to probably 120, that sort of ballpark. So
there is, when you break it down, you look at it like that, there is actually quite a big difference between, I suppose, the makeup of both of them. But just kind of moving on now, so like, you've in the last couple of years, like obviously the more you're doing it, the better you're going to get, but you have started coming up through the ranks, and it's a name that everyone kind of at home is starting to hear a little bit more, in the Superstock especially. But how kind of do you prepare for racing, like, fitness wise and stuff? Like, do you just kind of eat healthy and do the odd run, or do you have like a strict sort of regime that you follow for racing?
I don't have a trainer or anything, so I plan and do everything myself. And yeah, just I keep myself fit and just make sure I'm ready on the bike. One of the main things is if you start to get tired, like physically tired, you then start to make mistakes. And obviously at high speed, you need to just be 100% like full concentration for the duration of the race. So as long as I'm in a state that I can put fast, consistent laps towards the end of the race, then that sort of tells me that I'm physically prepared for the racing. So yeah, I do a bit of running, do all kinds. A lot of it's sort of around schedules, and also around injuries. So, for example, I broke my toe not long ago, so that put us out for running for a while. But then I just have to like improvise and do other things.
Yeah. So it's a bit of everything, a balance, nice balance.
Yeah. I've also got a motocross bike, which I do off season. I do a little bit of motocross, which is, for me, is the best fitness wise, but it obviously carries the inherent risk of injury. So I don't do motocross or enduro or anything during the season, but off season I like to get out on my motocross bike.
Yeah, I was going to say off season, like how do you it's the motocross bike then that kind of keeps that buzz sort of ticking over when you're not in race season?
Recently it has been, but for years I never had a motocross bike, and I quite enjoyed just having a break, to be honest. So you get a lot of adrenaline through the season, and every weekend, you kind of, it's the risk and the excitement and the buzz. and I've always kind of enjoyed having a bit of downtime from sort of October till like March time. But yeah, I think that's changing now, and I'm getting a bit. I am enjoying motocross, and I've started doing a bit of enduro as well, which I really enjoy.
Okay. And you're a part-time maths teacher as well, are you?
Yes,
so
that's
do that
right.
on the other side of racing.
You what? Sorry.
You do that on the others, on like when you're not racing. That's your kind of your.
Yeah, that's my day job. Yeah, that's my day job. So I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in it's like a secondary school not far from where I live. It's kind of like a city, like inner city secondary school. But yeah, it's you couldn't really get a polar opposite from racing motorbikes to teaching maths. But yeah,
motorbiker come maths teacher.
Yeah, I find it really challenging, and I enjoy challenging myself and sort of getting out of my comfort zone. So yeah, it certainly does that, and it sort of helps pay the bills.
So you're racing on the circuits, but I know you've said like you did do a little bit of roads or whatever. Would you ever consider coming over and doing actual road racing, like over here in Ireland on the Isle of Man, or are you happy enough doing what you're doing?
Yeah, right now I'm like really happy with what I'm doing in sort of British superbikes and doing the short circuit racing. So yeah, it's not something that I really sort of consider at the moment.
No,
and I absolutely love coming and watching road racing. I went to Scarborough a couple of weeks ago to watch Dom and the boys, and although that's obviously quite a small sort of road racing track, but yeah, I love going over to the TT, and it's definitely on my bucket list to get over to the Northwest at some point, and hopefully if the Ulster Grand Prix back, say next year, I'll definitely be over.
So with only 4 kind of meets left now, is it Snetterton, Oulton Park, Silverstone, Brands Hatch, in some order like that? What sort of results would you be hoping for? Are you just going to keep kind of tipping away and trying to do as best as you can, or what's the plan?
Yeah, so well, right now I'm second in the championship, 5 points off the leader, so it's really really tight at the top. And so far this year, I was on the front row for the first race, and I had basically a clutch failure on the start, which meant I had to abort the start, and I had to start from dead last, like right at the back of the grid, 40th or something. And I'm in that race, I managed to get up to 5th. So first race was 5th. Then I won the second race, and we came away from Donington joint leader of the championship. And then just at the weekend, I led pretty much the full race, but I got passed on the penultimate lap, and it was actually my championship rival, or who I was joint leader with, should I say, Tom Neave on the Honda. And so he was first, I was second, and it's so close. When we went over the line, it was like less than a tenth of a second. So I think it's the championship's really exciting. Looking at the times from last year, it was much more spread out. Where this year there was basically like a train of us from 1st to 6th, I think it was, which was pretty much all one group. So it makes the racing a lot more exciting. It's a real shame the Superstock race hasn't been shown live on Eurosport, because
I was actually only thinking that because they have everything else except that one, because I was actually as you say, there is a good lineup in the Superstock this year, and it is actually kind of an interesting one. But it has a good field in it, like.
I presume it must just be a scheduling issue with Eurosport, whatever, but I really hope that they do get it sorted, because the racing's been so good, and obviously it's good for the teams and the sponsors to be able to be getting the TV time. So yeah, hopefully we'll be on get our fair share for the rest of the season. But yeah, my goal is to obviously win the championship this year. And that just entails being like consistent, trying to win races when I can, and when I can't, getting seconds and thirds. And yeah, it's you never know what to expect at each track. There's always a bit of a surprise, and somebody you weren't really expecting to challenge. And there's some like class riders all the way through the field, and you just never know when when it's their day, they're going to be up the front. And I guess it's just a case of I'm in control of what I do, and I just need to make sure that I do the best job that I can with my bike and with my team. And if that's good enough to win the championship, then happy days. But if it isn't, I'll know that I've given it my 100%, and wherever I finish in the season, I'll take it.
And then just when you were saying there, you're 5 points behind the leader. What is it? 25 points for a race win? Does it go like that, or?
Yeah, so it goes 25 for first, then 20, 16, 13, 11, 10, and then it's 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So back to 15th place.
Oh, okay. So you're still well within a chance there. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, sure.
So what's the plan then for kind of the foreseeable when you finish racing? You're just going to keep entertaining us all with your podcast, yourself and Dominic. I know everyone was loving it during the lockdown.
Yeah, the podcast's going really well. I really enjoy doing it, and all the sort of feedback and interaction that we're getting with people on social media and YouTube and whatever. We're looking to sort of expand the podcast, and we've got a sponsor coming on board in the next sort of week or so. So that's keeping us busy, getting that all prepared and getting guests and everything sorted. But we did a podcast last night down in like Teesside area. And it's really interesting meeting people from sort of different angles of the sport. Some people that I know, or you feel like you know them, but then when you sit down for a few hours and sort of talk, like chew the fat, you find out things that you just never knew, and you sort of see a different side of people. And it's it's really nice to give the opportunity to people to kind of open up. And we had Josh Brooks on the podcast not like a couple of weeks ago. And that's been one of the most popular ones we've ever done, because Josh doesn't really get the chance to, show his personality and show the sort of true side to who he is as a person. And it was nice just to sort of allow him to open up and speak about his career and his views and whatever. So yeah, really enjoying it, and I certainly plan on keeping it going.
Well, please do, because I know we're all loving it here over in Ireland as well, as all your fans in England are. Well, thank you very much, Chrissy, anyway, for coming on this evening and doing this. And best of luck with the championship. We're all behind you and hope you do as well as you can.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Ollie. Take care.
Bye.
See ya.